Hi all, thank you so much for finding time and joining us for the F&B Talks by the Restaurant Times. My name is Nikunj and I would be your host for the day. For those of you watching us for the first time, F&B Talks is a knowledge series which brings together people who seek a deeper understanding of the world of restaurants. Our aim is to build a knowledge base on the finer nuances of running a restaurant business globally. Today we have with us a very special guest. His name is Matteo Frigeri. He is the founder of Seeds Consulting. Matthew, along with his partner David Living, started Seeds Consulting, a London-based company specializing in UK and cross-border business development for restaurant industry. Matthew, David, and their team have the privilege of working with some of the most talked about international concepts, such as the avocado show, the vegan junk food bar, the butcher, bubble wrap, prime minister, and crepe affair. Seeds Consulting is also consulting in restaurant operations worldwide and it acts on lease acquisition for several UK clients. It is responsible for bringing several concepts in the UK market, including Sunday in Brooklyn from New York and the Flower Burger from Milan. Welcome to FNV Talks, Matthew. It's a pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you for having me today, Nikunj.
Great. Thank you so much for your time. Without spending more time in the introduction, let's get going. We'd love to get as much insights as we can from you around the world of franchising, around the market in the UK, and a lot more. Great. So, my first question, Matthew, to you is: could you give us an overview of how the QSR business is doing in the UK, and now that the market has opened up? What are the trends that are shaping up the industry?
Sure. No, thanks, Nikunj. Well, our position is slightly different than traditional franchise consultants because we're on the edge between the restaurant industry and the franchise industry. So we're right at the edge there. And because we operate in real estate and we have hospitality consultancy as well, we have a viewpoint that is not just about franchising, and we just don't operate in QSR. So if you want to just really focus on QSR, we can do that, or we can talk about in general about the restaurant industry as a whole.
Let's talk about general. Love to hear your thoughts. Yeah.
General, what we can say is that certainly we've seen, since reopening, there's a lot of signs on the up at the moment. So, we're seeing sales slightly gradually edging back to 2019 levels in lots of different places in the UK, even in the central London estates. I was talking with a central London estate last week, and he was telling me it was actually quite buoyant to say that both retail sales and F&B sales in that very central London estate were up on 2019 levels. So we're seeing a lot of positivity. We had a big landlord last week reporting 80% occupancy. This is a more of a shopping center landlord nationally. 80% of footfall versus 2019 levels. So we're slightly edging back to what we call normality, which 2019 is normality for us. But let's be frank, there's going to be provincial sites that since the pandemic, they are well above 100% because, the shift in footfall towards more residential areas, they're seeing a surge. And I can certainly see that in my local coffee shop. It's never been busy since COVID. So there are a lot of people that are doing very well, and probably a lot of them are quiet about it. But we're hearing a lot more nice noises from the ones that the losers of the pandemic. They are sort of coming back to relevance to a certain extent. And when it comes to the franchise market, then we've seen that since not so much since the reopening, but certainly since September. So August was quite a sluggish month for franchise inquiries. But then since September, activity started to pick up, and October is very strong. So the business sentiment has changed. The perception and seeing these places being busy again has given a lot of confidence to franchisees. There's been a lot of unblocking of previous investment. So we had people that sort of made an initial inquiry 1 year and a half ago, and then only recently pushed the button. And for example, we're doing one of these type of deals. It's a kind of £2 million investment. It's about for 10 locations, started 1 year and a half ago, and now it's coming to fruition. So there's a lot of that. But as a business, we're not just about in the UK. So I wanted to
Yeah.
You know, I can give you maybe a slightly more European viewpoint as well, because we nowadays, since we operate in Germany, in Benelux, in Scandinavia, in lots of different European markets, and what our partners in those markets tell us is that it's a similar picture. So we can see a lot more interest in franchising in the market, a lot more inquiries versus, I think we in the UK we are 53% more inquiries this month versus 2019,
Wow.
the same month. So
Wow.
there's really a lot of curiosity, if you like, and a lot of inquiries. How much of that will become business, we don't know, but this relates also to the the increased popularity of the franchise model as well. We can touch on that later, but
Yeah.
certainly we are in a good mood. To be frank, we've never been not busy during COVID, but this is we can see some momentum definitely in the industry.
Awesome. I think no, that just gives us a good overview of how the market is moving. And as someone who has worked on multiple brands, and you guys have worked with some great brands, which we just mentioned in the introduction. How do you see the overall health of the industry, and what are the kind of formats which you see are picking up more strongly these days? Versus formats which were more prominent, before COVID.
Yeah, well, certainly. I mean, it's franchising is in rude health. It's definitely a hot topic. I mean, the main sign of that you see in the market is some of the big brands that they professed a no franchising philosophy up to now. They're starting to offer in franchises. So nowadays, you see Pret a Manger, obviously today in the news as well, signing substantial franchise partnerships in the UK and outside of the UK as well, or brands like Itsu, for example, or brands like Paul. So that they all go into the franchise arena recently. Plus, we have an influx of brands from outside as well. Big franchisors from the US, typically like the Popeyes or the Wendy's, so that the masters of franchising internationally coming into the UK. So there's a lot more franchising talk. I think there's a lot more awareness about the different types of franchising, because there's always been a misconception that franchising is to the unit franchisee, the small owner operator, somebody who wants to buy themselves employment and run it as a lifestyle business. Well, franchising can be, typically internationally master and air license for franchising, but there's also other ways of doing things, and we're involved in JV partnerships, in JV franchising, or subordinate equity deals. Things sound very complicated, but the thing is that there's more than one way to franchise. I think there's more awareness about the different tools in that kit for a franchisor. So that has opened various avenues for development.
Right.
So yeah, bottom line, I think it's a very good moment for franchising. I think there's going to be a lot more development that way as brands go outside of their domestic market as well. So that definitely see, it's not certainly a model in decline. On the contrary.
Right. And I'm just curious to understand that the franchisor-franchisee relationship, could be a tricky one at times. You being working around with so many brands, what do you think are the most important factors which brands should keep in mind when going for a franchising? What do you think they should think about? What are the factors that would help create a great relationship in these times?
Yeah, well, I would say to you that the franchising is one way of growing the company. So you should carefully thought about how you want to grow, where you want to grow, and what are your what is your overall strategy. And franchising can play a part in that, but it's not the only option. And as I don't consider myself, and we don't consider ourselves as franchise consultants. We consider ourselves as business developers. So when we approach brands, we always challenge them to say, is franchising right for you? So are you happy to hand over your baby to somebody else, having done things properly? So making sure you have the right systemization, the concept is tight, you have your policies set up, You have obviously a strong agreement, and you have all the controls, but it's still you're handed over your business, and it's a different work than running your own stores. You have to make another business successful. So how do you build your organization around that? How you build a structure around that? So geographically, how that will work, or by channel. So it's not for us is never the only option. So there's more options to grow the business, and we're in touch with lots of different types of investors, not just franchise investors. So what I would say is you always have a critical element, but the bigger brands, they will have that in their company. I think it's more the smaller brands need to consider things a bit more sometimes than jumping on the franchise model. I think it's just one of the options, even internationally. So franchising internationally, the go-to options normally, but it's not the only option, and we can certainly give a few examples in that direction as well.
Right. Could you share some interesting examples of how other brands have taken the route of not going franchising way, but they have come out with certain great business development plans? Maybe some of your brands that you have worked with, or any of your existing projects where you took a very different route to consult the business.
Yeah, so I mean, we always give the examples of the clients that sort of where we started with them at a very early stage, and then helped with the strategic decisions in the early days, and then sort of assisted them to develop from there. So I mean, we certainly can mention a brand, and the reason why I also have this background is as one of the brands that we're working very close with is the Avocado Show, which we're opening today in London, by the way.
Oh, nice, congrats.
So we added one more city to our international presence. So we are already in the Netherlands and Brussels. So with the Avocado Show initially it was a piece around franchising. So they wanted to strengthen their franchise program, especially the training and all those elements. So that's an element where we could add value with our operations team. And once we were satisfied that package and that that systemization was in place, then the focus shifted more into building those partnerships in those key markets according to a strategy. So we had more of a EU piece, and we still have it as a company. So we focus on certain European markets. And with the Avocado Show, it's mainly a franchise model. So we were looking for area developers in lots of different countries. So they had to have this sort of similar criteria that you find in many area developers. So a track record in running multi-unit restaurant operations, the funding, the sort of organization to take on one more brand. And I would say to you that for the Avocado Show, for us, the most important thing was the cultural fit in the end. So we had a lot of these potential parties, but the ones that really came on board were the ones that where the culture of that company was a good fit with our clients' culture. So that's our job. That's where it comes in. So our job sometimes is technical, but sometimes it's also about building those relationships and really understanding whether two parties are a great fit. And in the end, it's the most important thing. So brands like Pret A Manger will have multiple options to partner internationally, but they would just go with the parties that where they see there's a good fit, and they will be able to represent their brand in the best possible way. So I think that is a very important element of what we offer, the ability to sort of fit those parties. And I would say to you is probably the most important thing, and it's often overlooked by franchisors.
Right, absolutely. No, absolutely. I completely relate to the points that you're making, and franchising, of course, has its own advantages, but I'm sure there are certain challenges itself. What are those challenges that you see that is there in the franchising model, which might be a trigger for brands to explore some other route? If you have seen certain challenges, that you have experienced in the past.
Well, I can always speak I can speak for food franchising, and you know, my exposure is to the food franchise sector, and in that sector is the challenges are the ones that are, you know, so more like sector challenges at the moment. So we have, you know, labor shortages, for example, and we have rising labor costs. So we're expecting an increase in the national living wage. So that is a big challenge for businesses being able to recruit, and you know, the rising costs in general in the business, and we're expecting a VAT rate hike as well next year, and the more footfall means the property market is starting to become in the best locations. It started to become challenging again. So if there's a good location, normally in this market there will be multiple bidders, more so than a few months back. So there's a lot of there's certainly challenges in the wider F&B market at the moment, that, you know, I can certainly point to. But I think for a franchisee when it comes to franchising, food franchising, I think the main challenge is that I'm talking about the UK here, in an unregulated market, because we're not you know, we're not a regulated franchise market. You know, there's been a proliferation of restaurant brands, and that is true also for the food franchise sector. There's been a proliferation of food franchises in the market. So there's a lot of choice, and a lot of choice normally confuses, and so it's difficult to manage all that complexity. So there are, one of the challenges as a franchisee is to choose the right franchise, and making sure you do, you know, the right due diligence, and you choose the right thing that is in the end right for you, and you're right for the franchisor. So I think the problem with that is that because we're an unregulated market, there's a lot of offers there that some of them would have very little track record. Some of them will not be they will have not a great franchise track record. They may have shot many franchise stores, for example, or they will be in categories like typically you know, smoothies or frozen yogurt, or where the business model is quite challenging in this market, or salad bars, which are pure salad bars. They've been struggling in this market, so the offer, the category is not right. Or in the poke sector, where there's a lot of players and not a lot of differentiation. So I think it's hard to find, and I see a lot of investment, a lot of decisions are made on concepts that where I know the franchisee will struggle, because you know, it's just not relevant today. So there's a disconnect, I think, a bit between the wider restaurant market and the franchise market. So a lot of complexity. What I can say to your and to your audience, and this applies to everyone looking at a franchise opportunity, is how we go about, because whatever brand we take on, we put ourselves in the franchisee's place. Correct. And we stress test it. We you know, we first and foremost, it needs to convince us as if we were a franchisee, and then we can work with our brand. So you know, our criteria are very simple. So we would look at the overall offer, so the consumer proposition. So does it fit certain consumer trends, or you know, in a particular category segment of the population, or in the overall population? Does it fit those consumer trends, which are around health or sustainability or Instagrammability or delivery, whatever? Does it fit those trends? Is it a mother brand? Have they incorporated some of these trends in their offer? That's the first thing. And the quality of the branding and the interior design, the following. So is it popular? What's their online following, for example? So all these things as the first step are very important. It gives you a flavor of whether the concept is cool. So if I look at the Avocado Show, you know, it's great brand, great design. It's more than actually a restaurant brand. It's the Stretchler brand, great online following. So it looks good. So what's the next stage then? As a franchisee and as a franchise consultant, what's the next stage? Is more the rational stage, which is, does it make money? I mean, is it profitable? Is it easy it is to run. I mean, are the main costs in line with industry standards? Are they better or worse? And in the end, what's the return on investment in the existing operation? Do they return the money? So this is the second level. It needs to stack up financially. And third is about the people. So does this company has the right structure, the right organization to be able to support a franchise program? Does the management team have the vision and the strategy, or they're more just opportunistic and speculatively looking at franchising?
Right.
So all these key elements are important. And if it's a tick, it's a triple tick, then I think there's a good opportunity. And then it's all down to the specifics, or what kind of lifestyle you want to have. If it's a noodle bar, or if it's a wet-led business, you're probably likely to have nighttime trade. So it's down to you what kind of lifestyle you want, the geographical location. So what's the size of the opportunity that you have in the market as well, in your region, perhaps, if you want to operate in your region. So these are more specific to the franchisee, but in general, those three criteria: so the consumer proposition, the financial viability, and the quality of the management team and the organization. I think these are the main things to look at.
Correct. So I think that was a very detailed explanation, and something really insightful for the audience. In fact, my next question was pointing towards that, which is today we have seen there are so many models that franchising in itself has become really complicated. So what are the factors which one needs to think when he wants to pick up a model, like which model to go after, and what are those 3-4 things which one should keep in mind when he wants to decide that, okay, I want to go for an X model or a Y model or a Z model. But I think you've kindly almost pointed out all the aspects in your previous answer. But if you'd like to add something, please.
Yeah, well, in the end is the USP. So is the unique selling proposition. So you don't have to think that you come up with a genius idea, and you need to have a bit of genius in your concept. I think the USP can be the operations model, or it can be the marketing approach, or how unique the brand is, as sophisticated the brand is. So there's a lot of and I don't think USP only has been a secret recipe, because it can be more things. So looking for that differentiation, I think, is important, especially if you want to invest in a coffee concept, say, for example. I mean, it's quite a mature category. So you want to come and invest. You don't want to invest in something which is just a copy of Starbucks, because people would, especially in a market like UK, are quite brand driven. So if you go with a smaller brand that looks like Starbucks, then you're not going to have a lot of success potentially. But if you go with a brand that perhaps has a better food offer than Starbucks, or has a more premium positioning, for example, because they roast their own beans locally, and they have they have something unique about it, then it makes more sense to invest in that category. So what I would say to you is that always look for something that is not just different. So it has that element of differentiation, but it's also relevant to the consumer. So in the case of this coffee concept, having a food offer is relevant to the consumer, because the consumer doesn't want to stop for coffee in one place and then stop for lunch in another place. They want a one-stop shop. So if the food offer is not great, they probably want to go to Pret a Manger to have their coffee and food instead of having it in Starbucks. So you want to have that. So the consumer and the relevance to the consumer is always important. And if they want a premium, and they're prepared to pay premium for better coffee, then you're in the right space. So you have that differentiation, but that relevance to the consumer as well.
Correct.
So I mean, the best thing is always have a good read of consumer reports around food service. If you want to invest in food service, get a grasp of what's happening in the market and what the trends are, and that will give you a master plan. If you want to do things methodically, that would be my advice.
Correct. No, absolutely. Thanks for that. And we also noticed something very interesting, on your website, which is franchising 2.0. Looks like an interesting proposition that you have developed. Could you tell us a little bit about, what franchising 2.0 is all about, and how does Seeds Consulting look at it?
Yes, thanks, Nikuj. I mean, it's very simple. I mean, franchising 2.0 is around the capability not just to take a brand as it is, a franchise proposition as it is, and market it, but being able to mold and shape that franchise proposition to make it more attractive for franchisees. So it's a bit of it sort of brings in a couple of elements into the equation. One is the real estate element, and one is the operational the operational element. So being able to assist the franchisor from a real estate perspective and operationally, that's what sets us apart from other consultancies, I think, because we, especially for smaller brands, we can add so much more value than just introducing a prospective party. So that's a bit about that. It's also about promoting and bringing about more awareness about the different ways to franchise. So addressing some of the concerns that franchisors normally have about relinquishing control of their operation, for example. So we have models where, for typically a managed franchise, where the franchisor is it's a franchisor-franchisee relationship, but there's also a management contract where the franchisor manages the business on behalf of the franchisee. But that is typically done, has always been done typically, but apart from the hotel industry, in the restaurant industry for fine dining concepts, because then the franchisor really has a very complex business and wants to have a lot more control. And the franchisee then becomes more of a passive investor that has real estate perhaps. So but that's one way of doing things that is quite popular, and it's not just for fine dining concept. It can be also applied to other contexts, or typically, so the more the sort of JV franchising partnerships that you find, for example, typically in the US, like this model can be used also in Europe and anywhere else, and it's a model where the franchisor in the US is more of a necessity because of the local laws there, that where the franchisor needs to have their own sites first before being able to franchise. But in Europe, it's there's no such obligation, but the model can still be popular because in that way there is a the franchisor is with the franchisee initially in a partnerships, and then it can gradually exit as the franchisee's business is more established. So we're having that with a couple of clients at the moment, where we are engineering those sort of partnerships because they're made that model part of the strategy. Sometimes the strategy is just, we're going to sell franchise rights, area development rights, or master franchise rights. We invite companies to think more strategically and really use all the tools they can have in the company. Some models are more suited to others depending on the market. So yeah. That's what franchising 2.0 is. It's really thinking outside the box around franchising.
Wonderful. No, that's great. So yeah, what's on cards for 2022 for Seeds Consulting? We're almost closing to the year. So how is the next year looking for you, and what are the new plans for you to grow internationally and in any other markets?
Thank you. I think, listen, it's nobody can see, nobody has a crystal ball, but in our forecast, we're forecasting quite a busy year, a record year probably, because certainly at the moment we're bringing to the market new franchise brands that are really quite exciting for us. So that is going to be something exciting to see, and also we have an international business that is really taking off. So at the moment we have quite a lot of transactions that are sort of in progress in various different European markets, in the Middle East. So certainly, we can see those. We will see the benefits of those over the coming months, and some of them will conclude in 2022 because of the lead time for these type of deals. But I think that will be fantastic. And also, we are continuing with the sort of more side product in our portfolio. So we have virtual brands, sort of delivery only virtual brands that we're developing at the moment in Europe in particular. That is a kind of new model in Europe, and we foresee a lot of success with that. Whereas in the UK it's more established. There's a virgin opportunity. And also we are branching out in F&B concepts that don't just have the F&B element, but they have a social entertainment element combined with the food element. So typically this sort of darts or mini golf, or where there's those certain businesses, higher investment, but the profitability and the return on investment is amazing for them. So we're sort of adding that as part of our portfolio. So we foresee also being busy on that front.
Super amazing. Like, sounds like a lot of things are happening around, and it's going to be a super packed season for you. Great. Well, this brings us to the end of the conversation. Matteo, it was great talking to you. In case if there's anything else that you would like to add, feel free to let us know. But I think we have kind of covered in totality about how the market is looking like, and getting a great point of view from you for our viewers to understand how the franchising business looks like in the region.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just the caffeine. It's not because I'm caffeinated, but I'm good energy, because I think there's a lot of positivity right now. There's a lot of opportunities for everyone, and we can leave some of the gloomy times behind. I was delighted to be here today. I really thank you, and thanks to the Restaurant Times for the opportunity. And so I wish the audience to share the same positivity and positive outlook I have, because I think that the attitude is part of the solution. So if we have a positive attitude, we can really leave this awful situation behind, and look at the future with a positive with a positive view.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot, Matthew. Thank you so much for your time. It was lovely talking to you and getting so much knowledge from you.
Thank you, Nikunj.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah.